The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Let's go ahead and get it loaded up because we have a ton to get to on this Wednesday. Welcome, whether it's the morning, the afternoon, the evening. We appreciate you watching. As Tennessee, we've discussed, has a new women's basketball coach, and she's already making waves in recruiting. We'll get to that this day in Tennessee sports history. Also, we will discuss James Pearce and the fact that people are discovering what you already knew, what we have been telling you, and that is James Pearce is special good. Tennessee's edge rusher is now considered one of the top 2 non-quarterbacks in the nation heading into the NFL draft. This just in, he's probably going to forgo his final season of eligibility, but we'll discuss that. Also, Josh Heupel forcing some exits into the transfer portal. Do we even have a problem with that anymore, or have we moved on? Caleb Calhoun, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing, Dave?
Yeah, never better. Ready to get off and rolling. And I do want to get to the James Pearce conversation. James Pearce was what? Can you give me some clarification? Because I may have misspoke there.
Yeah, he was the second. He was ranked in spring the second best player in the country, including quarterbacks. It was him at number 2 and Travis Hunter at number 1.
Travis Hunter is, for those that don't know.
Travis Hunter is the two-way player for Colorado. Now, you know, I think I will be the first to say, and Dave, I think you will too, in a game like football, when you're talking about most valuable players, this list, I get they're going for like most dominant at their position, but like the top 10 players need to be quarterbacks. You know, like Shedeur Sanders is number 4. Shedeur Sanders is more valuable to Colorado than Travis Hunter. He is. Sorry, he is.
I'll agree with you. As of the last 10 years, before I would have argued with you, I would have said a great shutdown corner or an offensive tackle or an edge rushing defensive end like James Pearce would have been as valuable. With the way they've changed the rules, I got no argument for you. There's not much I can do about that. Portions of the program brought to you by our good friends at BetUS. 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits and a 10% gambler's insurance. What is going on with the Lady Vols as Kim Caldwell rounds out her staff? It's brought to you by our friends at BetUS.
America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Spas, the most comfortable spas made in the United States of America, right here in East Tennessee. Drop in for the all-new showroom in Athens. Dynasty Spas, perfect for all 4 seasons. 4 Downs, presented by Off the Hook Sports.
All right, let's go ahead and get this thing rolling as we're going to talk about the Lady Vols. Coop, what should people do if they want to be a part of the program?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thank you, Coop. What down, sir?
Coop here. First down.
All right. So we've got Lady Vol news as Kim Caldwell is rounding out her staff. First down, 2 Marshall assistants coming with her. Gina Burdett and Angel Reiser will be coming with her. Now, 2 different ways to go about this. We saw the Lane Kiffin assembling the all-star staff and then bringing along people that make you more comfortable. I'm actually more of a fan of the latter, and that is bringing people that make you feel comfortable. I don't think there's any need that you need to change 100% of who you are as a coach and a person just because you go to a different place. So somebody could say, oh, she's just bringing Marshall assistants with her. She couldn't get the A+ assistants out there. I don't think that's true. I think you want some comfortability there in your new location.
Yeah, I think Lane Kiffin, the hire of Lane Kiffin and what happened that year soured a lot of Tennessee fans or didn't sour, but kind of warped their brains on what a staff should be, which is this idea that if your whole staff is not a bunch of headliners, well, then you don't have a good staff. Well, no, if you have a system and you have an idea, you bring some guys with you that work. I mean, in 2005, when Urban Meyer took the job at Florida, he brought Dan Mullen with him. And guess what? He needed Dan Mullen, and Dan Mullen wasn't a household name at that time, but he knew he needed Dan Mullen. I mean, that's common. You bring coaches with you who have your style. When Bruce Pearl went to Tennessee, Tony Jones was not that big of a name, and neither was Jason Shea, honestly. So I think that I'm sorry?
Or Steve Forbes.
Yeah. I think he hired Steve Forbes a year later. I don't think Steve Forbes came with him from Wisconsin, Milwaukee. But yeah. And so Kim Caldwell has a style of play. She has a unique style of play. Guess what? She was going to want to bring staff members who are part of that style of play. So yes, she brought 2 assistants with her from Marshall to do that, Jenna Burdett and Angel Reiser.
Okay. What down we got going, Coop?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
I remind you to hit like and subscribe. Robin Tubner is a former Alabama associate head coach and recruiting coordinator, just from 20,000 foot view. I love this because she's got experience recruiting in the SEC, right? We don't know her. We don't know Tubner, but don't we like it?
But yeah. So Roman Tubner, he comes from Alabama. He has recruiting experience. And again, this is how you round out your staff. You do continuity, then you bring a couple of people with recruiting experience. No different than what you do in football, right? Josh Heupel brought in his guys from UCF, but then he hired Rodney Garner to help him recruit the South and the SEC. And Roman Tubner is exactly that. Roman Tubner has been a key part of Christy Curry at Alabama, who has, for those who don't know, Alabama is a solid, stable program, getting about 20 wins a year. If you know where Alabama women's basketball was before Christy Curry took over there about 12 years ago, it was a total dumpster fire. Yep. So just having them stable is incredible. And yes, she wants to focus on coaching with her 2 Marshall assistants, Jenna Bernadette and Angel Reiser. She wants the assistants she's hiring from the SEC schools to focus on recruiting, and Roman Tubner is going to be exactly that.
All right, so third down, Coop.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Gabe Lazo, former Mississippi State associate head coach, defensive coordinator, is in the hunt as well as far as what Caldwell wants to do to round out her staff. Again, I do like the fact that she's got – listen, half your staff can be from Marshall. They can be your buddies. They can be the people you grew up with. I totally get that. But I think the other half of your staff needs to have an awful lot of expertise. And also, by the way, we referenced the Lane Kiffin staff. Let's remember the Lane Kiffin staff, his dad was like the best defensive coordinator of all time, and his buddy was one of the best college football recruiters of all time. So there was some happenstance, and it kind of fell into place, Caleb, for him to put that staff together. Some of the more impressive hires he made, I know you've written about him before, is Frank Wilson out of Louisiana. I thought he was an impressive hire. Eddie Grand wasn't the X's and O's guys that I thought he would be, but I like this staff, and I would like for you to check out Dynasty Pools and Spas. Tell them Off the Hook Sports sent you, and you save $500 on a spa, and it's all delivered to you with everything you need. All local. Dynasty Pools and Spas brings you fourth down. Fourth down coming up. You're more or less optimistic about this Chambers hire. Here, you know, the best thing about Dynasty Pools and Spas is that they've got it all taken care of. What does that mean? Well, you stop by their showroom and check out their fantastic selection of top-notch spas in that showroom in Athens. Make your pick and get ready, because Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers within 125 miles of that location in Athens, that fantastic showroom. They've got the cover lift, steps, chemicals, and everything you need. Delivery at no extra charge. They're just down the road in Athens. You pick the spa you want, and it'll be there for you. Oftentimes discounted with military and first responders discounts. Also, blemish models, or just mention Off the Hook Sports. That's Off the Hook Sports for $500 off. There's a discount for you on spas made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas also has the best chemicals for you and your spa and your pool. No fillers, just the chemicals made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas, $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. Dynasty Pools and Spas, dynastypoolsandspas.com. Okay, Caleb, so fourth down is going to be, do you feel better or worse about the Chambers hire after what she has done so far on the coaching recruiting trail? But let's start with your thoughts on Lazo.
Yeah, so Lazo, I think, is another recruiting tie because, one, for those who don't know, Sam Purcell took over at Mississippi State, just so y'all know. He's got them to 221 seasons. Not where they were under Vic Schaefer, but Mississippi State had a tragedy where former Lady Vol, Nikki McCrae, had to retire within her first year there due to health reasons. Turned out that those health reasons were cancer. She has since passed away, which was an awful story. So then Sam Purcell really had to rebuild the program from nothing. 221 seasons. He's been a part of that. But most importantly, Sam Purcell has coached, Dave, here we go, Florida International, Miami-Dade County, Stony Brook, and George Washington. So that means he has recruiting ties to the DMV, New York, and Florida. 3 of the 5 most important places for basketball, right? So
that's pretty good. Pretty good. By the way, for those of you that are wondering, Jimmy Himes will join us tomorrow with Caleb Calhoun. A bit of a rescheduling, but Jimmy's appearance, as always, is brought to you by our good friend. He is just fantastic. Check him out. Ray Varner Ford in Clinton. It's about integrity, and Ray's got it.
Ford Mustang 5.0 GT, 33,540. 2021 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali 4x4, 46,980. 2022 Ford Expedition King Ranch 4x4, 67,550. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Seems as if we judge hires by a new method that I think's probably pretty inaccurate, but that's the way we are. You judge a new hire by how many guys are staying around. I think it was incredibly obvious in the Nick Saban hire that a lot of people didn't stay around because of what was happening. So I don't think this is a cut and dried way of doing it, but I want to look at it now. Here we go.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
By the coaches that have stayed, showed interest, and then we'll get into prospects that have stayed or showed interest. Do you feel more or less optimistic about the Chambers hire than you did when the announcement was made? Because you were one of the more optimistic of the media members that I respect. So are you more or less optimistic, Caleb?
You mean Caldwell, right?
Caldwell. What did I say?
Chambers.
Yes. I knew a Kim Chambers growing up. All right, Caldwell. Kim Caldwell.
You knew a Kim Stevens, a Kim Chambers, a Kim Caldwell. I knew a lot of Kims, Dave. My favorite Power Ranger was the Pink Ranger. Her name was Kimberly. But anyways, different story. So because she was hot. So Kim Caldwell, I think I'm the same level of optimistic about this hire that I was when it was made, because I thought I had heard her just on the radar right before she was hired, but I didn't think she was going to be Tennessee's choice, but I thought very highly of her. And so I'm still as optimistic at this point. The way I thought about Caldwell was this. One of the things they say, and that I think is kind of stupid, is when someone says, well, I know they're a great coach, but they just haven't shown a lot yet. So what? If you think they're great, who cares if they haven't shown a lot? They're great or they're not great, right?
And how are you supposed to show a lot if you're not given the opportunity to play more?
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like in my favorite, sometimes politicians will do this, and I always laugh when they're asked if they support a policy, and they'll go, well, I'm not there yet. What the hell does that mean? What they're really saying is, I just don't know if this will help me get elected, so I can't really support it right now. Okay, so I'm like, it's just the funniest phrase, because if you're not there yet, why would you be here 3 years down the road? What do you think is going to change? So with me, with Caldwell, it's like, oh, so yeah, maybe she doesn't have the same loaded resume that some other coaches have. But if you think she's the best hire and that she's proven herself enough, why do you sit there and go, oh, well, maybe 5 years down the road, she'll be great. Well, if you think she'll be great 5 years down the road, why not hire her now before she, I'm with you.
And somebody that appears to agree with you is Lady Vol basketball senior guard Jules Spear made a final decision to stay at Tennessee despite the coaching change. She announced that on Tuesday. How big of a lick is this for Tennessee to be able to keep Spear in the fold?
This is a big one. Jules Spear is probably one of the players. I think she's one of the players that John specifically mentioned that actually could play in this system for Kim Caldwell. So this is actually a very solid pickup.
Referring to John Adams, who joins us on Tuesday. Go ahead.
Yes, that is true. Jules Spear also, to be fair, maybe she may have been what cost Kelly Harper her job because she missed those 2 free throws against South Carolina that led to the events of Kelly Harper calling that horrendous defensive alignment that allowed South Carolina to hit a game-winning 3. If she makes those 2 free throws, that doesn't matter. So just pointing that out. But I do think that Jules Spear, she was preseason All SEC going into this past year, averaged about a little over 13 points. So I think she's the exact type of player that the Lady Vols need. The question is, again, the Lady Vols have a lot of interior players. And Tamari Key is graduated, but you want to know what's going to happen with those players. I mean, because a lot of them may not fit into what Kim Caldwell wants to run at Tennessee. So that's going to be intriguing to watch what happens going forward.
I think she definitely needs some local presence, and she's tried to get that with her assistant coaches. I wonder where she will try to recruit first, because when the NIL came out and everybody's trying to figure this thing out and they're throwing millions of dollars at players who haven't proven anything, like Bryce Young, for instance, and you've learned now you want to pay players who have proven something, does she immediately go and try to get some top high school prospects, or does she try to go transfer portal and get some ladies that can help right away? I mean, I know that Danny White said expect to win next year. It's one thing to say that. It's another thing to build a program. Do you believe that's the way she truly feels in her heart?
Yeah, I think she's going to go for talent next year. I do. I think this is very similar. Like I've said for a while, this is like becoming, when you take over a program like the Lady Vols, it's like, or even Tennessee football, in the age of NIL and the transfer portal, taking over these big programs is like becoming GM of the Yankees. You don't sit there and develop talent through the farm system if you're the Yankees. You just go sign the best free agents available and build a championship team that way. And I think that, I think that's the real focus of this, is that I think they need to, I think they're going to need to go in the portal immediately and get talent, and particularly since they want to win this year.
I tell you what, for the first time in my life, I'm okay with coaches making $1 gajillion. When basically we're talking about glorified gym coaches in a lot of situations, but with the lack of patience they have in their field, I'm kind of cool with it. Quality Tire Pro, the Eberle family, has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive brands, brakes, alignments, all oil changes, and more. All work covered by nationwide warranty. Cherokee Blvd. Say, hey, Bo, Off the Hook Sports sent me. Hey, Bo, Off the Hook Sports sent me. Or go to qualitytirepros.com, qualitytirepros.com. And if you don't flip this thing in 2 or 3 years, you don't have a lot of time. The days of the 5-year plan are out the window, aren't they, Caleb?
I mean, there hasn't been a 5-year plan allowed in, unless you take over a really bad football program. I don't know. What's the last powerhouse program that you think allowed a 5-year plan? I mean, look, Johnny Major's got a 10-year plan at Tennessee, to be fair, but most coaches aren't getting.
Dean Smith. He went a long time before he won his first one, like 7-8 years, maybe.
Yeah, but they were perpetual.
You got to remember,
contenders.
I'm a little bit older than you. A lot of people thought he was kind of the Calipari of that generation before he won his second one. They kind of thought like you've underachieved.
I still feel like he underachieved.
Yeah, I mean, he probably still did, but especially when I had a few years on you, and it was like, is he ever going to win his second one? Are there any quick Tennessee men's basketball transfers that we want to mention because they bring in a pretty good one in Darlington Dubar, who you think can be a Dalton Connect. Now, Igor Milichik Jr. is going to visit. He'll be the third visitor, we've been told, of the offseason. What do you think Tennessee would like to continue to pick up? Any other names we need to know before we talk about James Pearce being not only one of the best players on Tennessee's defense, football team, SEC, but nation? And I am not exaggerating. So give me the latest on Tennessee men's recruiting info first, please.
Yeah, so the other one they're targeting is Cade Tyson. I'm not so sure they're going to get Cade Tyson now since Darlington Dubar has committed to Tennessee. He was another wing player, 6'7", 205. But I mean, I understand why they're not targeting him or why they may not get him now. But if he committed to Tennessee, Dave, the guy shoots 46.5% from three, 2.5 a game.
But I'm kind of with you. This felt like somebody needs to do it, and the first that does it has a scholarship.
Yeah, that's what it felt like too. Igor Milichik could definitely work out. I will tell you this, as a matter of fact. I'm not reporting on this. This is why we didn't want to do a segment on it today. But there are rumblings that Owaka is looking at coming back.
I've heard more than rumblings on that, and if you want to address that, we can. I've heard that it's likely that he will come back.
You've heard it's likely. Interesting.
Likely. I think this is a money play, and I don't think he handled it the best way he could have possibly handled it. I think you're more.
I thought it had more to do with just Barnes' system and, too many bigs now with Barnes trying to play small ball.
Yeah, I think you want to get paid, and I think he realizes how important he is. He finds himself in a unique position. I just think you get paid quietly behind the scenes, kind of like, Cooper Mays did. I don't think you go out there and you announce that you're going to enter the transfer portal if your only goal is to get paid. I mean, you could have waited 24, 48 hours. It just ends up being bad PR for your school, and you end up taking the money and staying anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's a New York AAU kid where, they kind of they unfortunately, this, Dave, a lot of those AAU coaches teach you to just oversell your market value way before you should and shop yourself around when you shouldn't. The only defense I could maybe have again, beyond, I think it is partially Barnes' system. Maybe Owaka knows that most of his money is to be made in college because he could be limited for the NBA.
I think somebody needs to talk to him like really soon about how much money he could make in Europe. If he's thinking about the NBA, he's already too far down the path, in my opinion.
Does Europe pay that well? Like, does it pay? Like, I'm not sure about the money.
They do okay. I Googled it one time, and I think I'm not going to mention which player. I think he made like $600,000 a year, and he had like
So
like
does better than the WNBA.
Well, that's not saying a lot. This job pays better than the WNBA. Portions of the program always run.
That's the sad part. It actually does. We're not exaggerating.
Banks and Jones. Coming up, James Pearce in 60 seconds is one of the best players on Tennessee's defense, team, SEC, nation, all of that and more. Banks and Jones. Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Okay, so we're entering list season, and we're not going to get too listy. What does too listy mean? Listy means when I like my website.com decides to write the top 5 impact sophomores of the 2024 season in hopes of getting people to talk about it and getting clicks. We're not going to get caught up into that stuff. So we're going to talk about 2 different kinds of lists. One, if somebody says something that's completely idiotic, we're going to put them on blast, and we're going to enjoy that, and we're going to make fun of them and probably have less friends in the media industry. 2, if they're right. And in this particular case, they are right based off the people that I'm talking to, the NFL scouts, the college assistant coaches. Can we pull up the list that talks about James Pearce being one of the best NFL prospects in the entire nation. And I misspoke earlier, and I said he was number 2 non-quarterback. This includes quarterback. Guys, I'm telling you, Nico Iamaleava may have a fantastic career, but it still may not be as good as James Pearce. He is simply that good. Let's go ahead and pull him up. So the number 1 player entering the 2024 season is Colorado cornerback Travis Hunter. I'm supposed to not like that because a lot of people don't like Deion Sanders, Caleb, but I've got no issue with that. I think Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders are both very special football players.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, this is Blake Brockermeyer who did this, but not Blake Topmeyer, because I know they sound similar. But
Really?
I got no issues with it. And it's funny, before we get to James Pearce, Shedeur Sanders is down at number 4. So it's very, they're both top 4. I think people, and Dave, I'm going to say this about Colorado real quick. Whether or not they're for or against Deion, they insert their thoughts on Deion into their coverage of Colorado and don't let objectivity get in the way at all. I mean, yesterday there was this Shedeur Sanders put out some Instagram story of hey, offensive and defensive transfer portal players DM me. And one side was oh, this is something special. Shedeur and Deion are getting a bunch of players, which is stupid. All these players do that. But the other side, there were these anti-Deion people that were this is proof that Colorado is an unserious program. No, it's not. It's just one of their players trying to talk to transfer portal guys to see if they'll commit to Colorado. I mean, that's how it goes.
If I had a mass text of 100 4-star prospects, I'd send them out a text that said, hey, if you're interested in Colorado and it's a good fit, give us a call and we'll see what we can work out, wouldn't you? I mean,
absolutely.
That's the same thing. It's the same thing as a mass text. Boundless Moving can move your mass of stuff from the 2-hour minimum to turnkey operations. They can do it all. They've got you covered with offices in East Tennessee and Charlotte. Boundless Moving took care of my things, moved it in a very expedited manner, got it taken care of. Certainly appreciate Boundless Moving, no question about that. Now, the question about Pearce that I think needs to be asked is there any way he's at Tennessee in 2025? I mean, other than, and I'm not going to wish this on anybody, but other than a severe injury where he had to return, I just don't see a way. I look at a guy's the way he has continued to improve, and it seems like he has continued to rise. I haven't seen a blip on the radar. He had the traffic issue, so maybe that's a concern, but I think if there's anything you want to say to James Pearce as a Vol, you need to tell it to him very quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think James Pearce is going to be there too long. And just to get this out of the way, the top 5, James Pearce was number 2, Michigan's Mason Graham was number 3, Shedeur Sanders number 4, Missouri's Luther Burden is number 5. So that is the top 5 of rounding out the top 5. Just going to bring this off real quick and bring us back on. I think James Pearce will not be at Tennessee in 2025. I think with James Pearce, you're looking at a rare talent, one that Dave, we got to give him credit. Fred White told us last year, didn't he? Before anybody that he was telling us, watch out for this guy, James Pearce. Because I thought they were just saying he'd be good. I didn't think he'd be this good. And I think James Pearce is a top. Look, to get into it, my dislike for this list is I think quarterback should all be in the top 5. I think Travis Hunter should be in. I'm not Travis Hunter. I think Shedeur Sanders top 5.
And I'm going to disagree with you because I like the list that break them down not in significance of importance, which is what you're talking about, right? So I like the ones that say this guy's a way better defensive end than this guy's a way better quarterback. Does that make sense?
Okay, if that's the case.
Those are the lists I like, personally.
In that instance, should James Pearce be number 1?
Yes, there's no question.
Over Travis Hunter, who plays 2 sides of the ball?
Yes, he's not going to play 2 sides of the ball in the NFL.
No, he's not. But so we're agreeing right now James Pearce is the best non-quarterback in college football.
I think we
what
are.
about value?
I mean, is that crazy? Do we have a mock draft of the?
If you could do a mock draft, should he go higher than any non-quarterback in next year's draft?
Well, I've thought this for a while, and I'm surprised you're asking me a little bit. Am I on my own? Am I on an island out here? Because I thought he would be last year.
Well, my only question with that is this, and because let's weight value a little bit with the position real quick. And I learned this with Jadeveon Clowney, because remember, Jadeveon Clowney went number 1 in the draft. Like, was it 2014? I guess. And now he didn't have the work ethic that I believe James Pearce has, but
had foot problems too.
Yeah, but what I did realize
by the way, Jadeveon Clowney was a freak generational athlete that it hadn't been for foot problems and he didn't work incredibly hard, would have been one of the greatest ends of all time. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. My issue is if a defensive end goes to a bad situation, you can really neutralize their value, right? Just run away from them. Just run every play on the other side that they're not there. Isn't that how you can work that in? A lot of times.
Yeah. And here's the other thing with Pearce that's difficult to determine is he is a underclassman, or he's a rising junior. So he's not going to get draft grades in a lot of different places. I mean, these guys have hundreds of people to cover, and they're going to cover those guys first. But let me ask you, would you take James Pearce or this guy? And it's brought to you by Don Self, our State Farm agent there in the Chattanooga area. Customer service still matters. I know you're trying to save money left and right. I get that. But when you need to make that claim, donself.net, donself.net. Call 423-396-2126, 423-396-2126. Go to donself.net, right below donself.net. So let me ask you this question then, Caleb. I'm going to give you players that are right now projected to go early in the NFL draft. And you tell me you're on the clock. It's Caleb's cohorts. That's your NFL team name. Terrible name. Okay, so I'm going to give you the players that are selected via this mock draft that I found to go number 1. All right. Shedeur Sanders. Are you taking Shedeur Sanders or James Pearce?
Shedeur Sanders.
Okay. Shedeur Sanders is a quarterback?
Hey now.
Can't argue with that. Carson Beck.
Hey now.
Can't argue with the quarterback. Travis Hunter at cornerback. Taking the defensive end.
That's crazy.
I'm taking Travis Hunter. I think a lockdown cornerback can have a bigger impact than an elite defensive end all day, every day, 100% of the time. A lockdown cornerback takes away one whole side of the field.
Yeah, but don't you think that what about taking away the running game?
I don't think an elite defensive end by himself can't take away the running game. You can run away from the defensive end.
Yeah, but you're still taking away half the field. I like that. So
I don't think an elite defensive end is taking away half the field. And I mean, I don't, put an extra blocker on him and you got a little bit more. I think so. This is the debate. I mean, we can go to the message board on this. Would you take an elite lockdown corner or an elite lockdown defensive end? I'm taking the elite lockdown corner.
By the way, Ben's saying Caleb is delusional. You are delusional. You're taking the defensive end.
No, you're taking the lockdown corner. A guy that can shut down half the field is so incredible.
How about those Boza boys and Watt kids? They've done okay.
They've had help most of the time. And also, what happened when J.J. Watt was in Houston and putting up record numbers and didn't have help? Houston was 4-12. Okay? So that actually bolsters my point. J.J. Watt would be amazing and have no help anywhere else because you can neutralize them. I guarantee you this. A lockdown cornerback, no team with a lockdown cornerback is going 4-12 in the NFL.
I'm taking the defensive end, and there was a time maybe where I would agree with you, but I just don't. Okay, look, we got the Boza and the Watt brothers. Give me one cornerback you're taking over those guys in the past 10 years. One corner you're taking over those guys. And I'll tell you what, I'll tease that forward. You can tell me after this. Also, is Josh Heupel being mean? He's asking some of these guys just to get the H out of Dodge. Is he being mean? We'll discuss. Also,
hold on. We got to stick on this real quick, though.
Okay. What do you got?
Okay.
I was going to tease your answer ahead, but if you want it now, give it to me.
Well, I just wanted to keep it with this segment.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, So if you're asking me, would I take any cornerback over them? I would probably take, to be honest with you. Okay, you might have me. I may not have taken any cornerbacks this past year over them. But if we're going like the past decade, I take Patrick Peterson over all of them.
Over all the defensive ends?
All of them. Yes. Over every single one.
Actually, probably the only guy that I would agree with you on. It's totally unfair. Stay tuned. He's Caleb
But
Calhoun.
James Pearce is, before we I just wanted to get to this. James Pearce is generational. Will James Pearce go down as greater than Leonard Little or Derek Barnett at Tennessee?
It depends. Can we discuss this? Because I have some thoughts. Stay tuned because I want to get to. Let me ask you this. Go down in history by football fanatics or by the fan base? Because the fan base loves Derek Barnett almost overly strong. Like, I think Derek Barnett's a very good player. I don't think he's one of the elite players in Tennessee football history.
He's the all-time sacks leader.
I agree, but that was in a strange time. I think you have to be on a good team to be counted as
okay.
that.
I think James Pearce might be. I think he might be better than Barnett. But let's bring up Leonard Little, because that 95. It had Leonard Little stayed at edge rusher. He got hurt in 96. If he's healthy in 97, he was in 97 and stays at edge rusher. That's what he does is probably generational and unstoppable, and he's the all-time sacks leader.
Now, let me make sure that, because Caleb, I can't remember when you and I linked up together for the first time, but to give you a comparison, that's exactly who Fred White pulled out was Leonard Little. That was the comparison of James Pearce, which was pretty strong.
Yeah, Fred. I remember Fred White saying that.
And Fred does not throw out random comparisons. He's not saying that Hendon Hooker is going to, or Joe Milton's going to be the next Peyton Manning, which he clearly wasn't.
Because Little is the best edge rusher in Tennessee football history. So let's just make it yes or no real quick. Can James Pearce surpass him?
I'm going to say no. I think Leonard's too special.
Okay, I'm kind of with you. And for those who bring it up, Doug Atkins and Reggie White played defensive tackle in college. That's why I didn't name them.
Yeah, hang tight. 2 minutes. By the way, on our message board, I want you to vote on this. If you can go check that out. Tennessee's best NFL player is Nico Brew Pearce, someone else. So we open it up. Pearce leading with 70% of the vote. It's getting ugly. Stay tuned. By the way, Jimmy Holmes will join us on Thursday with Caleb Calhoun. He usually joins us on Wednesday. He is brought to you by the one, the only of our good friends, Ray Varner in Clinton. They have integrity that has been there for decades. Ray Varner Ford in Clinton.
Ford Mustang 5.0 GT, 33,540. 2021 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali 4x4, 46,980. 2022 Ford Expedition King Ranch 4x4, 67,550. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TristarHatsCo.com. That's TristarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TristarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOK. That's hooked when I do to save an additional 10% off. TristarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
I don't know, but I think Caleb has a love-hate relationship with me because I can do jazz every once in a while, go out in left field, and he's like, what is that guy doing? So we have that opportunity to do that now, Caleb. I'll throw it at you. A topic came across my desk via someone on our Twitter hotline that was nice enough to reach out and throw this at us. Out of this crew, who would you draft first, second, third? Because Nico's not going to be eligible. Let's do that tomorrow. Go to Hooker's Corner. I put the Patreon page in the description and the suggestion, the boxes, the comments, what they do there, what they do. So go ahead and sign up. You can sign up for free and you get a daily newsletter what's going on with Tennessee athletics. Plus, thanks to our good friends at Sports Treasures, you'll get weekly opportunities to win great prizes and a monthly great prize as well. I'm going down there today to find out what our monthly prize is for April. Man, it's been a fast month. No question about that. I want to thank our friends at Sports Treasures for making it possible for us to have Hooker's Corner be a John. Get on board. Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates, Sports Treasures TN, Sports Treasures TN. So certainly check them out on Facebook. So Caleb, can we do that tomorrow? Do you like that idea of we'll attack?
I'd love to get started.
Yeah, we'll attack what Vols you would draft 1, 2, 3. So we'll attack that tomorrow. A lot going on the program today, as Josh Heupel is going to be portrayed as a bad guy for some. Why? Because he has in the past told quarterbacks it would be best for you to go elsewhere. He has told players it would be better for them to go elsewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if he said that to Elijah Herring, Tennessee's linebacker, who's decided to go elsewhere. Caleb, does this mean that Josh Heupel is a bad person or he's just doing business?
Josh Heupel is just doing business. Josh Heupel said on a quote last Saturday, quote, "At the end of the day, you're trying to make your roster as good as it can be. We're going through that process, having exit meetings with our own players. I think the culture piece is extremely important, in particular at this time of the year, because there's not a lot of time with them before you get to training camp. It's got to be mature guys that you're bringing into your programs."
Can I stop you with one thing that you pointed out to me? Exit meetings, those two words.
Exactly.
Can I give you a little bit of insight?
Sure.
So 2 Januaries ago, not last January, when everybody was waiting to see if Cooper was coming back, right? But 2 Januaries ago, they had an exit meeting with Cooper just to make sure he was coming back. He technically could have gone to the NFL or he could have retired from football. So they do that with all of these guys. I feel sorry, as Derek does, for Elijah Herring, but I'd rather be in Herring's position because Derek, here's the way it used to go. A coach would have you in and say, man, you just have to keep busting it and you're going to get an opportunity. I promise it's going to be there for you, Mr. Caleb Calhoun. You're going to be a factor. But in reality, they just wanted to keep you around because you were a borderline player they might need if somebody better than you got hurt. Now, in some cases, they would tell you just get out of Dodge because you're not good enough to play. But that was rare. Why was that rare? Because it hurt you in recruiting. So it sounds more hardcore. And I hear the message board, Derek, saying you feel sorry for Elijah Herring and his brothers there. And I get that. But I'd rather be treated like a man in this situation than a 17, 18-year-old kid. And that's how they were treated just 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, and also it's up, and you probably know this, Dave, because most of the time coaches honored scholarships no matter what. And there were a lot of players who did not live up to the billing. And if you weren't living up to the billing, even back in the day, you may have entered the transfer portal and set out a year, or, and I'm sure you know players like this, they decided, I'm just going to give up my NFL career, what I hoped. I'll just accept this free scholarship that I'm getting from the university, stay on the team, and graduate with a degree and go and get a job out of that. I'm sure a lot of them made that judgment call back in the day.
The Robert Pieces of the world?
Yes. Although he did play, but yes. Yes, exactly.
Yes. Well, and not every one of those players married one of Philip Fulmer's daughters, but.
Right, that's true. But Joey Matthews even, I'm sure he just accepted. He was a backup quarterback. And he said, I'm going to get my degree, call it a day, and that's fine. And so I think you got to make that judgment call. I think, I would hope to think Josh Heupel maybe encourages them to enter the portal, but won't outright pull their scholarship dependent on certain things. I'll say this.
Well, let me ask. So you have a problem with pulling? What if Elijah Herring?
No, I don't. I didn't say I have a problem with it. I would just.
Okay, but let me ask you how this conversation would go. If I'm Coach Dave, okay, and I say player Caleb, you're not going to play. You need to go somewhere else. You say, but I've got a girlfriend here, and I've already started the interning, and I'm going to have a great job here. So no, I'm not going to go. Technically, it's a 1-year contract on my end. I can take the scholarship from you. So if you flat say no, I'm not willing to go, I can still make you go. Should you do that? Should that still be in the toolbox, or should you handle it more diplomatically and consider it just a loss if you can't talk a player into doing it on his own?
No, I think you try to talk a player into doing it on his own. But I think what you do is you maybe make some calls and here's how you can win it. Try to help them find a place where they could play. Elijah Herring, because remember, we watched him against Group of 5 competition last year. When he wasn't playing in the SEC, he looked really good at linebacker. It's just once that speed takes it up to another level, he's not good.
Caleb, I love you, and that sounds good. But the bottom line is, once let's go opposite McAllen Castles. Castles got to Tennessee. He saw the resources. He's like, I'm going to bust it. You go out to UC Irvine, you see the lack of resources. Was it UC Davis, and you're going to be like, oh man, my career in football is going the wrong direction. I mean,
there's another side to it, though.
It could tank you too.
It could, but it depends on the mentality of the player. And maybe you go to a place that's, go to UC Santa Monica. You're on the beach then, and
Pepperdine. Does Pepperdine have a football team?
I have no idea. But okay, you can even stay Power 5. Heck, go to Duke. Elijah Herring would actually be good in the ACC because they're not as fast. He would look bad against Clemson, but against the rest of the ACC, he'd be fine. Elijah Herring, Dave, is the type of player. It was just when he played SEC competition, the lack of speed showed. But if you play ACC, you don't think he'd look good playing against Wake Forest or against Virginia Tech or Virginia, those schools? I think he'd be fine playing against those schools.
I
honestly.
Agree. Okay, so if Herring walked out the door, and I'm going to give you an amount of money that's somewhat accurate for a guy who showed up and played a lot. He walked out the door with $150,000 to $200,000. Does it make you feel any better about just pulling a scholarship?
Yes. I this is where I was getting at. This is something we warned people about from the start. Player advocates. And I'm going to talk about the ESPN people and some of the people that pretended that players were being exploited with scholarships. Dave and I always supported players getting paid, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. The natural outgrowth of NIL and the transfer portal is going to be like, well, now we get to be as cutthroat with you as we are with anybody in this business. People talk about how coaches can leave on a dime, but how coaches could leave on a dime back in the day. That part's true. They could also be fired on a dime back in the day. And so you couldn't do that with players. You've opened that door. And the problem with it is most players, the majority of college football players do not generate revenue more valuable than the free scholarship they get to go to college. They just don't.
No, that's true. I mean, that's why the business works. Hypothetical Travis says if he pays on his tuition on your scenario, Dave, do you then just kick him off? So if he pays his own tuition, no, I'm okay with it. And they had these nowadays. They don't get as much pub, but they've got some of these preferred walk-ons. They're even more preferred than they used to be because a lot of them are getting their scholarships paid. Why? Because you can just pay anybody now. I mean, just not to get off topic, but the next rule that's going to have to be addressed is 85 scholarships, isn't it?
Yeah, that's going to have to absolutely be addressed.
I mean, think about it. If you're the University of Tennessee, you can afford a lot more players than the University of South Florida.
Yeah, what's the point of a scholarship limit? I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you.
I just kind of stumbled onto that, but I feel like that's something that we may get into tomorrow. Apex Apparel Group Design. Check out this shirt. It's my TriStar Hats co-shirt, and it was done by Apex Apparel Group Design. Call Tyler, 865-919-3001, 865-919-3001, or go to orderapexapparel.com. It's right down below, orderapexapparel.com. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get 15% off your first order. Off the Hook Sports, 15% off of your first order. I'll tell you this too about this Josh Heupel cat. He's the new players coach. The new players coach is about, you don't need to be that physical at practice. You don't need to be worried about getting in a fight in practice. And you also don't need to be worried about getting taken care of when it comes to NIL money, because I think Heupel goes to these players. I think he's a player's coach in a lot of different ways, and that helps him.
I think that's a big part of it. And I think Josh Heupel is takes it a little more personal because he's one of the few coaches who was a high-profile player at a time when college football was nationalized. There have been a lot of high-profile players that were coaches in the past, okay? But there's a difference if you were a high-profile player in the 60s, Dave, before college football was a national sport, than if you were in the 90s or the 2000s, which is when it was already generating revenue. So, yes, Johnny Majors and Steve Spurrier were college football superstars. They weren't revenue generators, though, during that era, okay? Josh Heupel was a revenue generator, winning a national title at Oklahoma in 2000. And he didn't see a dime of that. So he probably is a little more sentimental to the philosophy than those coaches who were stars in the 50s, 60s, and 70s were. And I think that's what stands out with Heupel. Dabo Swinney was really the first. This is where Dabo Swinney won a couple of national titles. He was the first coach to, in a principled way, stand in support of his players, even though he's against NIL. But remember, he helped Kelly Bryant land the new transfer at Missouri. He basically called him to his office and he said, look, we're not going to start you. We're going to start Trevor Lawrence. He's better than you, but we will help you find wherever you want to go, and I'll help you land, and I'll make calls. I'll make recommendations for you. And yeah, I think that brought him goodwill.
I don't think he was the first players coach. I think there were other ones. I think the interesting thing is you used to have a debate between players coaches and disciplinarians. I don't think that debate's there anymore. I don't think if you're not a players coach, I don't think you're going to be successful. Now, Kirby Smart may be the one exception to that rule. We'll see. But yeah, but for the most part, I do believe that you're going to have to be a player's coach. Hold that thought. Give me 2 minutes here. Off the Hook Sports. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker.
In its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Welcome to Ray Varner Ford in Clinton, where every turn meets new possibilities and every mile celebrates cutting-edge innovation. Elevate your journey with our pre-owned selection of quality vehicles. 2021 Ford Mustang 5.0 GT, 33,540. 2021 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali 4x4, 46,980. 2022 Ford Expedition King Ranch 4x4, 67,550. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Guys, welcome back to the show. I would like to apologize for some technical difficulties. Dave's internet has gone out, and that happened to me yesterday, believe it or not. So we had some major issues in the past with that happening, but I believe we're back on now. If we can bring him on. Dave, why'd you leave me?
Hey, there I am. I don't know. I was just being mean, just testing you, making sure your hosting skills are up to par, and they always are. Let's get rolling here as we've got some things to dive into, and that is some transfer portal chaos. You know, it's going to happen. It is happening. Also, Sam Pittman, Bobby Petrino, Ryan Day, Chip Kelly. Who do you like the most? Let's do it right now. Off the Hook Sports.
Your board's not working. Dave, your board's not working.
Is that what you're telling
Now
me?
Your mic's not working.
Now my mic's
yes,
not working.
Yes.
Perfect.
Oh, no,
How
it's
about now?
working. It's working. You're not synced with your sound.
Okay.
Your
my
mic is
working
fine.
now?
Hold on. It's working
Okay,
good. Your mic's working good now.
How about tell me if you can hear this? Not hear that?
Nope.
Okay. Then we're moving forward. It is time for Four Downs. It's brought to you by our good friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. Dynasty Pools and Spas is unbelievable. Dynasty Pools and Spas has the best spas made right there in the United States of America in Athens. You stop by their showroom, find their hot tubs, and then they're going to deliver it within 125 miles for free. And they're going to have complete support, spa cover, and chemicals to keep your spa bubbling. Mention Off the Hook Sports and get $500 off. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Again, dynastypoolsandspas.com. So let's go ahead and get to first down. First down is now. Did Louisville write NIL checks that they can't cash? Caleb? This involves some Tennessee players. So what are we hearing from the Louisville contention about NIL cash?
Yes. So, and guys, this is chaotic. Okay. 3 offensive linemen are reportedly set to enter the portal from Louisville. Ruben Unje joined in January and is entering the portal now. Trevante Sylvester and Victor Cutler both joined last summer. Sylvester's refuting a report. Trevante Sylvester and another player who joined last summer are entering. Sylvester is refuting the report that he's entering, but nothing's confirmed that he's not yet. Victor Cutler was reported to also enter, but now he is actually staying. But it's been an absolute chaotic situation. The reporting out of Louisville's total. No one knows what's going on there. And when it's this chaotic and some players are entering, you know that there is something Louisville did that was shady. There was also Jermaine Lowell, who was entering the portal, and running back Penny Boone, Peni Boone, who also transferred to Louisville this past all season back in January, is also entering the portal. 2 players who joined in January are gone in spring. That leads to the idea of some NIL checks that can't be cashed. Oh, Dave, I think you froze on us again. We lost you again, buddy. Guys, dealing with some technical difficulties here again. Look at Dave's angry face. Look at what it's frozen on right now. Who loves that look? I wonder if Dave knows. He's that his face is frozen. Please bear with us. We're still going to try to figure this out. Long story short, it sounds like Jeff Brom and Louisville were writing checks they couldn't cash. And we had heard that report. Dave was going to tell us that he had actually heard that reporting way back when. And honestly, that's kind of a disturbing fact with Louisville. I don't know for sure long term what this means, but yes, it does appear as if Louisville was writing NIL checks that they can't cash. This is worse than Florida. Florida had one incident with Jaden Rashada. Louisville's had multiple incidents now. And you wonder how this is all going to end up for them, because this is kind of a disaster with Louisville. They have been totally unable to... It was weird when they were getting a lot of transfers this offseason. It was kind of the same Ole Miss route, but nobody really thought that Louisville would be able to actually pull that off. So I think that there was something there, and I don't know what their long-term strategy was. Dave, you're finally back with us. There's Dave.
Yeah, I don't. With Louisville, is it necessarily a long-term strategy, or do you go in and you make such a splash that creates a long-term strategy? Do you even have a long-term strategy, or are you just chucking up 3-pointers like in an NCAA tournament game because that's the best option you got?
It's almost like... Have you ever done this, Dave? I mean, well, no, you haven't done this, but you know business, you know investors. But so I feel like sometimes businesses or seeking investors or blatantly lie about their situation or anything like that, and they get investors on board. And then once the investors are on board, the investors find out they were swindled. But then they're like, yeah, you were swindled, but you're stuck with us now, so you better help us make it work, because you're screwed otherwise.
I agree, but like if you want to look at the Bernie Madoff situation, he wasn't even making investments. So what was he supposed to do? He had to lie to his clients.
Yes, exactly. And so did Louisville just... I can't imagine Louisville pulled a Bernie Madoff because they had to know this was going to get caught, right? My thought is they signed...
I don't think it, but you see, it's your word choice that I don't like. You said Louisville. I don't know that Louisville did it, but it just takes one businessman to get intertwined into that collective world, right? So that may not be Louisville. That could be Bob, who owns the Carpet Express down the road.
That's a good point. You're right about that. So
and suddenly Bob has made your whole athletic department look like trash. That's why I think having a collective to go through. And listen, we're going to have news where there's going to be a collective who's being unfair to the players, and they're taking way too much money. That is going to happen. But you still need a collective there to make sure the money is managed fairly for the players. As I suddenly have gotten the hiccups on the air. Caleb, say something insightful.
No, I totally agree. And this is where I wanted to transition to the Matt Hayes of Saturday Down South article, because the transfer portal opened yesterday and on Tuesday, April the 16th. This is the first transfer portal in which the NCAA, all of their regulations are put on hold because of the lawsuit Tennessee filed. Okay, so it is now the Wild Wild West is fully out in the open.
Someone right now, and you think I'm exaggerating, has gotten paid 5 digits to visit a school and will be offered 7 digits before the end of this spring transfer portal period. Now, I think that is stupid, because I think you're looking for immediate impact players, and spring's too late in the game of football to have an impact in the fall. I'm not saying across the board, but for the most part, I think that's stupid. But those types of deals are going on right now. Brought to you in part by Dynasty Pools and Spas. Imagine having the best spas made right here in the U.S. in your backyard. Well, they're here. Now open. Dynasty Pools and Spas has their brand new showroom open in Athens and the best hot tubs and spas on the market. Delivery, they can do that within 125 miles. Complete support, spa cover, and chemicals to help your spa bubbling at its best. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Caleb?
Yeah, they're gonna start paying players to visit them. And the market hasn't worked itself out yet because it never went this fully unregulated.
It's funny to me that it's working itself out to actually hurt the high school play.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. You're right. I mean, people aren't going to really want to open the checkbook for high school players anymore. You're right. Nico came in at the right time. I think what's just so interesting about this is that, I mean, of all people, by the way, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss said it's a really stupid system. Says the guy who's building his entire team off the transfer portal. I think what's driving him crazy is he's worried about losing all of his guys because he made all these moves in December. What leads to that is this spring is not going to be like last spring, where most of the people who entered the portal were players who entered because they probably couldn't play where they were at. No, there's going to be a lot of tampering and a lot of players entering the portal in the spring this time around because somebody, like you just said, offered them 6 digits to visit and they're offering 7 digits to they commit. That's exactly what's happening here.
I agree with all of that. Apologize for the technical difficulties. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. We're with you weekdays at 10 a.m. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you haven't at this point, turn your notifications on. Cooper coming today for Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation.